All right, guys. So our penultimate topic here before our Falcon and Winter Soldier episode 4 spoiler discussion here. So it's your quick warning for that. We're gonna have that coming up here right after this topic here because this one is kind of in the same vein as the Rock and Black Adam movie, where we just never knew if this movie was even gonna really happen. That one finally is. But this one is over in the Lucasfilm Disney world with Indiana Jones 5, another movie much like Black Adam and the Flash, where like it has been announced. They say this is going to happen, that's going to happen. I feel like arguably was the most unlikely of those three to even actually happen, just given Harrison Ford's age at this point. Like, and especially since they've been dragging their feet with this, he's not getting any younger. And it's gonna just become, like, more and more unreasonable to see someone of the age of Harrison Ford doing the things that they have Indy do, in all honesty. But we got our first kind of confirmation here that they are indeed moving forward with this movie because they have cast Phoebe Waller-Bridge to be a co-lead, or I guess the role hasn't been 100%, like, announced, but she's gonna be, like, the co-lead in the film with Harrison Ford, and John Williams himself is returning to do the score, which is another thing that I think is a pretty big deal at this point, is given, he's getting up there in the age too, and it's not gonna be expected. It's just it's a shame that we're living in a world where, like, soon we're not gonna have new John Williams music, and it's not because he's gonna, like, just die, like, soon or anything, nothing like that dark, but it's just I think he's given enough of his time to, especially to the movie music world. I mean, there's not a you could hum any tune out there, and, like, if it's a John Williams one, you know it, and, that's a big deal in a lot of ways. But, John, I think the biggest story here is that this movie is even still happening, personally. I'm still kind of like the Flash and Black Adam, like, I'll believe it once, once I get the little clapper, I'll believe it's gonna happen. We already have word that Steven Spielberg is not gonna be directing this one, he's just gonna be producing it, which is gonna be interesting. It's pretty much the first Indiana Jones movie that's not gonna have Spielberg or Lucas directly involved with it, and in an impactful way for the most part. But we have James Mangold coming in to direct, so that's cool. I think he could do good with it. Director of Logan, and then previously, what was Kate and Leopold?
Yeah.
Underrated movie, good movie. Another movie with Hugh Jackman in it. It was a good movie. But John, what do you think about Phoebe Waller-Bridge and John Williams here coming into Indiana Jones 5? And what do you think about Indiana Jones 5 even happening?
Um, I'm torn. I'm excited for it. I love the character Indiana Jones. Um, I think that there's there's people were left with somewhat of a bad taste after Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull,
True.
and for that to be the last Indiana Jones film that we ever got, would be kind of a shame. But then it's also careful what you wish for because, you know, this could be worse.
Yeah.
There's always that possibility out there. It's interesting that, especially it's very interesting when you look at the fact of how much is changing. Like, we're not it's not going to be Steven Spielberg directing it. And you look at things like Phoebe Waller-Bridge being cast. I love Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Fleabag was a great show, and I think she's a good actress, and I think she'll do well in the film. But this movie's been in production for so long; they've had the story they've been writing the story or working on the story for so long. I think it's pretty clear that she probably, for whatever her role is, was not being thought of as the role was being written. So this role wasn't written for her. She was cast in. I hope she works out well for it. But you hear about sometimes people write roles for certain actors and actresses. I think this is clearly not the case here because this movie's been in production or pre-production for so long that they're just casting somebody who they think fits the part well, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I'm just saying it's one of those things that we just have to wait and see. So John Williams coming back. Hope I personally feel that music is such a vital component to any film. It helps everything from the tone to just the familiarity with the settings and the characters from film to film. That having that consistency will be nice, especially when you're losing it with the director leaving. And so we'll see. I think this film, unfortunately, has some pressure on it. And on the one hand, while I was worried that we wouldn't ever get to see it, I am glad that they've taken their time with it, and I hope that they spent that time wisely and that they've taken the time to ensure that it is as good of an Indiana film Jones film as they want it to be, or as that we could get. Nowadays, I hope it's not just that it wasn't rushed and there aren't there aren't as many issues with it that seem to kind of be involved with the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. So
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Like, I love all the Indiana Jones movies. I mean, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull wasn't very good, but it wasn't like a dumpster fire by any
sure.
means. But I'm just honestly more surprised that they're moving forward with like continuing the story and not doing like your classic, a flashback to a younger day and they recasted Harrison, like got like Chris Pratt in there or something to be the new one. Like that, I'm honestly more surprised they're doing that. Like they're actually supposedly, I mean, we don't know. It hasn't really been confirmed if it's gonna focus on Indy in these years of his life, but that's kind of been what with the information we've been given, is that it's just gonna be Harrison Ford being Indiana Jones again. So
Do you see this as possibly opening the door to him passing the torch to another actor to be Indy going forward, or a version of Indy?
I don't know because that's what they were doing with Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah,
And I love Shia LaBeouf. Yeah, he didn't use him good in that movie, but I mean, they had him in like I'm more curious if they can just completely disregard the fact that he exists, that Mud exists. Was his name Mud, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
Mud or
what they
something.
called him or
That was
something
his
like.
son, right?
Yeah,
Like, so it's like they're just gonna because that's explicitly what that movie was trying to do, like for the most
sure.
part. Like it's like Shia LaBeouf was like big with Steven Spielberg during that time. It was the time the Transformers stuff was happening. He was a producer on Transformers. That was his big role into there. Shia LaBeouf was like popping off there, and he's a fantastic actor. Like I love Shia LaBeouf. I don't know if he would have been right to continue being Indiana Jones. I don't really think he fit that mold very well.
Hmm.
Like I would honestly see like people have said like I mentioned Chris Pratt, he would be a good person to kind of like step into that. Like I could see him being that character in that way. He'd be kind of like his a mixture of Star Lord and his Jurassic World character. Be like a good
Hmm.
mix of
Yeah.
that. And like I could see him doing that, but like I just don't even know if it's worth it. Like Indiana Jones is it's so intrinsically tied with Harrison Ford, like more than Han Solo even. Like,
I agree, but I also think Indiana Jones, just the character and the idea of Indiana Jones,
do you think it could be
fits
like Bond?
yeah, it fits so well with the Bond type.
I could see that.
You can do so many different stories with the character that I think that having it be this kind of thing where you bring different actors in to give their interpretation of the character would work well. And I don't know. Maybe Uncharted picks up the indie reins and becomes, this generation's Indiana Jones going forward. But I'm sure the studio, I'm sure is Paramount, right? I'm sure Paramount doesn't want. Is it Paramount that does Indiana Jones? Do they have the
No, this is
rights?
Lucasfilm, Disney.
Lucasfilm.
Yeah,
Okay, so it's going to be Disney then.
yeah.
Was it Paramount that distributed it? Because I always remember the Paramount logo at the opening of Raiders.
It didn't have the Fox fanfare.
No, I'm pretty sure it's the Paramount logo because then it fades away into the mountains where Indy is
Hmm.
at the beginning of Raiders,
I don't
I
remember.
think.
I haven't watched
Um,
the indie movies in a while.
well, regardless, so it's Lucasfilm. So I'm sure Lucasfilm doesn't want Uncharted to pick up
Yeah.
the reins or whatever, however you want to put it, and be the kind of fortune hunter genre standard going forward.
It was Paramount.
But okay, good. But I think that yeah, it's possible that that could be what happens if Disney and Lucasfilm don't find a way to make the series of the franchise more Bond-esque.
Yeah, reignite it. 'Cause that's the thing too,
Yeah.
it's been so long and then, like, it left such a like, Crystal Skull left such a bad taste in everyone's mouth that, like, I feel like if they wanted to go the Bond route, they missed their mark with it.
Mhm.
Like, and this is just another step in the direction of not doing. Like, you know what I mean? Like they set up the thing with, mud or whatever with Shia LaBeouf in the last one, and then it also sucked for the most part. So like that would have been the time
But that's
to
also
do
such
it.
a weird way to do it. You're taking an existing character and making in Bond, you just straight it's the same character in all of them. You just
Yeah, yeah.
recast the role.
That's what
And
they should have done. Like, they should have not done Crystal Skull the way they did, and, like, that should have been when they recast and just
yeah,
they established that, like, we're telling the new Indiana Jones stories with a new actor.
yeah,
Like, n but now that they've, because then you would have had your trilogy of indie movies that were all beloved, and then you go into this new iteration of it, but they did the 4th one as a continuation and, like, doing this other so I think it kinda, like, it hurt its chances of
yeah.
being successful in that way, and, like, that's why I kinda think they are bringing Harrison back and doing it this way. It's just to give redemption, in all honesty, and then maybe in 10 more years, they'll reboot it and, like, I
I
don't
think
know.
that would be my ideal scenario is that you give Harrison a proper send off. You make this one of the make this one of the better films and you do this as well as you can. And hopefully it's a great film and it's a great end cap for Harrison's indie run. And then maybe in 5 years, God willing, Harrison's able to come out and say, we're gonna relaunch Indiana Jones, and this is the new Indiana Jones, and he, almost literally in a press conference passes the torch
Yeah.
to a new actor, so that everybody's more on board with it. I think it's always funny when they recast and you never hear from the previous actor that played the role,
Right.
like what's going on. I think they've done that well with the Bond. I think when Brosnan stopped being thing. I think he came out in support of Daniel Craig taking over the role, and so I think it would be kind of nice if they could find a way to do that if they decide to go forward. Now, maybe Disney lets it go. Maybe Lucasfilm decides, we did ours. We're going to do it. We're going to develop a new IP and have that going forward. I don't in this day and age. I don't see that them leaving it just to rest forever. But
Yeah. Like, I don't know. They have if we're gonna get redemption for Harrison's Indy, I think we need redemption for Harrison Ford's Han. But, that's all I'm saying.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, I
we
agree.
we need we need redemption for the sequels in general, in
Yeah.
my opinion. But either way, I'll wait and see what happens with this. Like you said, I'm a fan of Phoebe Waller-Bridge. I'm obviously a fan of John Williams. So I mean, never a problem to add talent. That's what they're doing. So we'll just have to wait and see. Question is, guys, what do you think about this? Are you excited for Indiana Jones 5? Do you think, at this point in time, they should have just done, taken the Bond route with the Indiana Jones series? Or kind of like me, do you think at this point they kind of missed their chances on that? And that's what they should have done with the 4th one? I don't know. Just let us know what you think down in the comment section below.